Hello, I'm David from Halo Print and Frame based here in Stratford-upon-Avon. And today I just wanted to show you how we use a combination of a WideTEK scanner and Canon large format printer to produce fine art prints for our local artist customers. We've used a WideTEK scanner now for a couple of years, and it's really great because we can take an artist's original piece of work and produce fine art prints, give them digital artwork for them to create greetings cards, a plethora of different formats of work, but they take one original and produce a lot more work from that original. The WideTEK has given us gives us a great piece of technology. It's a really nice large scan bed. The quality of the scans are fantastic. The scan bed itself is roughly about 63 centimeters by 47 centimeters as a scan bed size. So A4, A3, A2 pieces of work, no problem. We can actually go much larger than that because, of course, applications like Photoshop will allow us to multi-stitch a number of scans. I think the largest piece of work we've scanned is about 2.2 meters by 1 meter, a really, really big canvas. So don't be fooled by the size of the scanner. You really can do a lot of oversized work with it. But what we want to do today is just show you a nice, clean, easy throughput of work from the original scan, bringing it up on screen and printing, doing a test print, going through maybe 2 or 3 prints with some fine, just color detailing, just to get the print where we want it to be. Now, probably one of the first questions with scanning is what level of color accuracy we can expect to achieve. So wherever possible, we're working with a fully calibrated system. The scanner itself is fully calibrated straight from the box. The monitor, in this case, we're just using an IMAX screen. So whilst the screen may be calibrated, it's not so nice as, say, an ISO color calibrated monitor. But it's what we've got here in the showroom here. And then we've got our Canon PRO-2600 printer, which of course has been profiled. All the papers that we're using have bespoke profiles made for them. When we scan, I try and say to customers that what we're going to get color accuracy wise is around about 90 to 93, 94% color accurate from the first scan. Never think you're going to get 100%. So many different pieces of artwork that challenge colors in very small amounts. But if we can get color accuracy of around 90 to 94%, we're doing really well from a base point. So we're going to dial in just that small bit of color detail later on. As far as scanning process, we're going to work with a nice little 40 centimeter acrylic on canvas. And all we're going to do is start by lifting the lid on the scanner, carefully placing the artwork face down. And in this case, we're just going to let the lid settle onto the artwork. As we've got the scanner set up here, the lid itself is hinged within the base of the scanner. That lid can be removed. So if you've got chunky canvases, 50 millimeter deep on the stretcher, you can unhinge the lid and lift that up. If you're doing really big work, again, that lid being able to be removed is really handy. But in this case, we can just leave the lid softly resting on the canvas. You can control the scanner by the front control panel. There's really no need to do that when we control everything from the computer from a web-driven interface. When you set up a scan, you can do lots of presets. You can change brightness, sharpness, lots of different settings on the actual interface itself. And what you can do over time is you can save preset defaults. So in this instance, we know we've already got a default setup here for a 300 DPI scan, scanning in Adobe 1998, and we've got a brightness of 52 and a contrast of 52. These are readings that may not mean anything to you, but they're tiny little tweaks from factory standard that we know and trust when we're doing most of our standard scans. The first thing we do is press scan, and I've been talking too long, so I've just got to reload the interface. That will just take merely a second. I'm going to my template and I'm pre-selecting the 300 DPI scan. Click scan and the scanner will whir into life, and that's going to take 10-15 seconds. Even if it was a 600 DPI scan, a 900, 1200 DPI scan, it really takes anywhere between 10 and 20-30 seconds. So the scanning time is very short. Now that the scan has populated on screen, we're just going to save that file. That will save to our downloads, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. And then we'll open that up and that'll come into Photoshop. So needless to say, the first thing I need to do is rotate 180 degrees, because I always put the work in upside down. This is slightly out of arrangement, a couple of degrees tilting to the right. So the first thing I'm going to do is just correct that. And then, because the artwork was smaller than the scan bed itself, we're just going to crop out the background that we don't need. And because I'm talking whilst doing this, I'm not being 100% with it. So there's our piece of scanned artwork. We can, of course, zoom into it. You can get an understanding of the sharpness, the level of detail captured. And when you've been scanning for a while, you start to learn where your color shifts are going to be. But it's always good to start with a base print. On Photoshop, pressed print, and I want to make sure that the paper in the printer is selected within Photoshop. And all I'm going to do as first instance is just print a small test print, about 20 centimeters square. I don't want to go wasting all that paper and ink. So that's going to produce a nice, simple 20 centimeter test print. And from that point, we're going to compare our original with our print. And I do suspect there will be a little bit of variation there in the color, but not a lot. So we'll just wait for that to drop through. So that's a little test print that we've just produced there. We're printing on etching rag, which is lovely paper. 20 centimeter test print. And if we try and put those next to each other, that'll give you a sense of first print. We know straight away that this is looking a little bit flat, a little bit lifeless, but that's not unsurprising. Really, it's not going to take too many adjustments to get around this. Then it's down to your Photoshop skills. I'm a picture framer. I'm not a Photoshop expert. So some of you might look at me and just go, oh, we can do this really easily, or you're doing the wrong thing. We've just learned our own technique for this. But I know straight away that if I go into levels, I'm making sure that my white point is contacting. But I also know that if I go into adjustments and saturation, if I give that a good 10% saturation boost, that's going to bring a lot of life back into the image. Because at the moment, I'm looking at the brightness, the sharpness of the image, not so much the color. So saturation 10, 12 plus on that one. I might go into the cyan channel. And again, this is quite instinctive. But certainly when I'm working with my Canon printer, I tend to see a little bit of a shift in the cyan channel. So I know, again, instinctively that I can go pick out the cyan channel and just bring the hue to a -3. It's amazing how much that fixes. And you don't want to, like anything in Photoshop, you don't want to make big wholesale changes. Usually small changes are all you need. We'll just send that to print, do another test print, and we'll see the differences between the two. So that's our second test print there. And we're not quite sure really if you're going to see a difference, but certainly we know that this is our second image here, and we're bringing in that level of brightness and crispness into this image. This was the first one, which was a little bit flat. So we're now probably sort of 98% there. We're very, very close. Maybe one more little edit to get it just right. But hopefully that just gives you an indication of how close the first scan will be. There really isn't too much editing work to be done in Photoshop or any other application. So that's hopefully a nice, easy, quick way of seeing the throughput of work. A couple little tips, pointers is when you're presenting any artwork into the scanner, your artwork needs to be flat onto the scan bed. At the end of the day, the focal point within the scanner is on the glass plate. A scanner isn't actually that complicated. It is a big metal box with some nice cameras in there, but the focal point is set to the glass plate. So if your artwork sits 5-10 mil above the glass plate, then you're not going to get true focal point on the actual scan. Why might it not sit on the flat plate? Imagine a canvas, an original canvas. If you're a picture framer, you'll probably be used to seeing canvases where the canvases are never flat. They're always a little bit askew on them. So when you present your artwork, particularly if it's on a stretched canvas, a stretcher bar, make sure the artwork sits flat onto the scan plate. If there is a little bit of a twist, you can leave the lid of the scanner up and you can just get some weight bags and put some weight on a corner of the canvas if it's just lifting a little bit. But do make sure your artwork is nice and flat. If you're scanning things like pastels, then be very careful. You don't want to lift and slide the paper around, not with pastels. But the process is really quite straightforward. And as a picture framing business, what we've certainly found is the combination of a scanner and printer has really opened up a great, massive market for us with our local artists, and really does bring a lot of throughput through the business. So hopefully that helps, and good luck. Many thanks.